Hi, and welcome to The Yak. Tonight we talk about our top 5 progressive rock vocalists.
Now, my number 5 choice might be a bit of an outlier. Is my choice a great singer? Well, maybe not. But do I like his work? Do I consider him to have been a significant player in the development of prog rock? Well, absolutely yes. He recorded 3 studio King Crimson albums and 2 highly revered studio albums with Supergroup UK.
Okay.
And then went on to work with other well-known but less progressive acts. And I'm referring, of course, to Jon Wetton. So why do I like his voice? Well, it was precise. It had a nice, smoky, rough velvet type tone with a pleasant resonance. It was also very expressive, strong, at times spirited, and at other times just melancholic, similar to that of Greg Lake's, I suppose, but slightly darker.
Okay.
He changed his style to suit the musical and lyrical background, and he never looked out of place in any musical outfit he was part of. And he was most proud of his song Starless from the album Red by King Crimson. So have I hit the mark here or have I missed it? What do you think? Should Jon Wetton be present in a top 5 of prog rock vocalists?
That is, I'm not sure about that one. I find Jon a bit samey. But, you know, each to their own.
Okay, all right.
So, my number 5
Yep.
is Mr. Steve Hogarth
Yes.
from Marillion.
Yeah. Okay.
Handling prog, pop and rock effortlessly,
Yep.
Hogarth, or H as he is affectionately known to Marillion fans, has a voice that's both expressive, pure and emotional. It can be a little husky in certain areas of his range, but I like that, and he can push a vocal to a surprising conclusion. Totally versatile and a sublime storyteller, I find that he can suck you in and keep you mesmerised on the subject at hand. He's the perfect vocalist for Marillion. They certainly dabble in many genres of music, and I believe that H's versatility allows them that luxury. It nearly never was, though. Back in 1988, Steve was considering quitting the music industry altogether, as success was eluding his current projects, and he was feeling that time was slipping by, and it may in fact be time to get a proper job.
Right.
Rather than throw in the towel, he was encouraged by his then record company mate to send a tape into Marillion, and subsequently was asked to meet at bassist Pete Travis' house.
Yeah.
He arrived with a bunch of demo tapes and a red plastic fire bucket and ended up having to perform his audition in the garage, as Pete had cats and H was highly allergic. Even then, after the audition, it was not a foregone conclusion, for when Marillion asked him to join, he had just had a lucrative offer from to join them as a keyboard player on their upcoming American tour. Luckily, he joined Marillion, and the rest is history.
Sure. Well, Steve Hogarth from Marillion, I mean, yes, he is a great storyteller. He has a good, strong voice, a good vocal range. I like his melodies. I like the fact that his voice has a nice amount of grit to help deliver emotion in the lyrics. And look, I think he probably has a better voice than Fish, who had more of a raw, sort of emotional style, which did help bring Marillion into the spotlight quite a few years ago now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he is a better technical singer than Fish. Is he a better prog singer than Fish? I guess that's debatable.
So I'm going to carry on at number 4. I have Greg Lake, a founding member of the progressive rock bands King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, ELP. Now, he was the voice of The Court of the Crimson King, a landmark album released in 1969 and generally acknowledged to be the first, and by some, the greatest prog rock album of all time.
By some?
Yeah, by some. His vocal style was a perfect match for the genre which he helped to develop. A contrast of styles ranging from restrained and soothing in many ballads to downright menacing, as in 21st Century Schizoid Man, which showed he could really push his voice to extremes to deliver a menacing vocal line. At the other end of the scale, he could sing beautiful, sensitive ballads such as Epitaph and I Talk to the Wind, both from the first Crimson album. He was certainly one of the most important figures of the prog rock era. I mean, let's face it, he was the voice of King Crimson in their debut recording.
And then moved on, of course, to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. His voice is beautiful.
Fantastic.
Absolutely beautiful.
Fantastic.
I prefer his ELP work. I'm not a huge fan of, as you know, of the in the court. But his voice is superb. So, my number 4.
Yeah.
Well, a rock critic once called them the most boring band ever to interview, which subsequently led them to rethink their attitude, and they began making up interesting stories about themselves. One of the very last bands around that were able to sell CDs by the bucket load just before the death of the format, and a true live stadium band still today. I'm talking, of course, about Muse and Matt Bellamy. Now, Matt utilises amazing and varied storytelling through the use of falsetto, vibrato, and vocals that generally sit in different areas of a song in an almost cinematic film noir style. He's even known to incorporate his breathing as an effect in certain songs, and I love that he's got no fear in experimenting with different colours in his vocals, and the band's use of technology to enhance their live shows is legendary. Matt can come across as slightly eccentric live on stage, which I think sets him apart from his peers. Make no mistake though, everything he does is meticulously worked out and performed to the highest order, and nothing is left out. In my opinion, a true prog singer of the highest order.
Okay, Matt Bellamy from Muse. Now, Matt has a great voice, with a really wide vocal range. I love his use of vibrato and his signature singing in high falsetto. There's no doubt he's a great talent, being a guitar player, pianist, and the main songwriter for the band. And I really like his eccentric stage performance, as well as the band's arty music videos, which you mentioned. So Muse is a class act, but should they really be in the rock category, such as alternative rock?
No. I mean, 3 studio albums that were all based on a storyline? That says concept to me.
All right. Okay.
Definitely prog.
All right. All right, so at number 3, I have David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. Now, Gilmour was both a guitar player and co-vocalist, having joined Pink Floyd in 1967. And by the early 1980s, Pink Floyd became one of the highest selling and most acclaimed acts in music history. Roger Waters left in 1985, at which point Gilmour took the spotlight, and the band continued to record several more albums. Now, Gilmour has a higher register than my previous choices like Lake and Wetton, and sings with a clean, smooth tone suitable for ballads, which represents the bulk of the music recorded by Pink Floyd. But on occasion he can also sing with aggression, such as in the track Run Like Hell. Overall, his singing is as emotionally expressive as his bluesy guitar playing, so great melodies on both fronts. It all fits so well together. And he also sometimes sings or scats along with some of his guitar solos, for example in the song Wish You Were Here. He also has the most mainstream sounding voice in my top 5. So highlights with Pink Floyd, many, but I'm sure we know the favourites.
Well, I wouldn't have picked Dave as a vocalist. Definitely guitar.
All right.
Okay. Wow. But vocalist, well, anyway, again, opinion. So, my number 3, moving along, is Ewan Lawson from Palace.
Okay.
Ewan's sense of unusual yet very rich vocal melodies quite simply sit on the verge of outstanding. Running the full cacophony of sweet to distraught for me, his vocal always carried an air of underlying grandeur about it. His studio performances were passionate, and he could carry a story with an air of intent which I just love in a singer. He basically performs a song like he's living it, all with unnerving ease. I had the privilege of seeing Ewan perform live with Pallas at a local live club venue called the Dial-In in Glasgow's city centre. He was a commanding frontman back then, using costumes and headgear to enhance the storytelling live, and it worked incredibly well, and of course the comparisons to Gabriel were there, but the way he put it across it did have an originality about it. Now, with only 2 Pallas albums under his belt, the first being a mishmash of demos and bits and pieces, the ultimate listen is of course the second album, 1984's The Sentinel. Now, this album reached number 41 in the album charts, which, quite frankly, was no mean feat for a progressive band back then. In fact, along with Marillion, Pallas was spearheading a small revival in progressive rock in the UK. Unfortunately, the band encountered troubles during the mixing with producer Eddie Orford of Yes and others, and that, coupled with the fact that songs from their Atlantis suite were removed from the recording due to the time limits on vinyl, led to further tension and an eventual parting of the ways between Ewan and the band. Pallas went on to recruit able Gan singer Alan Reid for vocal duties, but Ewan unfortunately dropped off the musical radar. A real loss to the prog community, in my opinion.
Well, Ewan Lawson from Pallas. Okay, look, they're definitely a progressive or neo-progressive band. So he left the band in, I think it was 1986.
So.
Yeah, okay. And look, I remember he was keen on giving stage performances with elements of shock and horror. He has a good, strong voice with a good range. But having said this, I think he's given up singing now.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice that is stuck in the past, unfortunately. But I think it's just such an amazing a contribution to progressive rock from that time that it's well worth a mention. And in saying that, Pallas have a new album coming out this year, right. Which was quite surprising. Just appeared on their Facebook site, so go look at that.
Sure. Okay, at number 2, I have someone who is definitely no stranger to prog rock. It is Jon Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay. So Anderson is most synonymous with the progressive powerhouse Yes, which he formed in 1968 with bassist Chris Squire. And he has one of the most recognisable voices in progressive rock, being very high in pitch, and I think this really suits the music of Yes. His vocal range is classed as an alto tenor, and there is a misconception that Anderson sings in falsetto. But in fact, he is able to sing the high notes because, as well, his normal speaking voice sits above the tenor range. Yeah. Now, Anderson's lyrics depict images, spirituality, moods, and feelings, which deliver imagery, but often, I think, without a lot of solid context. And he has said that he sometimes chooses lyrics because he likes the sounds of the words and then considers the meaning of the song, which I think is a flawed process.
Nah. Well, I mean, I guess his lyrics are open to interpretation, and when you look at something like Tales of Topographic Oceans, that is actually a concept piece about spirituality.
Right.
So it kind of made sense to me when I was 50.
I thought you were going to say something like that. So I have my copy here of Tales from Topographic Oceans, 1973. And 73 was a good year, by the way. Now I'm going to read some of these lyrics. Starlight movements in seasons, release forward. Tallest rainbow.
Yeah.
Sun shower seasons, life flower reasons. They move fast, they tell me. But I just can't believe that I can feel it. There's someone to tell you. Amid the challenge, we look around in unison with you. Now, I was never any good at Shakespeare, but what is that all about?
Well, I'm not sure what the problem is here, Tom. those look self-explanatory to me and are quite obviously about the alignment of the planets and the deep self-examination of the self. All very obvious in my opinion.
Right, okay. Well, look, nonetheless, Jon Anderson is a prog rock legend and he's been there almost from the start. And he deserves my number 2 spot.
Yeah, Jon Anderson is a legend, and Awaken is one of my all-time favourite songs from Going for the One. I saw that album live. Yeah. He was superb. Yeah. There's been no one in Yes has knocked him off that spot, really, the vocal spot. Whoever else has sung for Yes.
True.
Okay, so my number 2 is Mr. Peter Gabriel from Genesis. I mean, I think we're getting into the obvious realms now. And what can I say about Mr. Gabriel? Peter's tenor vocal comes equipped with a rough-edged warmth that I just love in a singer. Another who is totally immersive and totally committed when it comes to the performance and storytelling aspect. Rather than chasing the perfect vocal, he's more interested in getting the feel of the song across. Not that his vocals are not great, but you can hear him sometimes straining in certain areas, almost squeaking out the melody. But rather than deter from the song, that kind of gives it a bit more, if I can say that.
Yep.
It actually adds to the overall storytelling. He quite obviously puts his heart and soul into the performance, although by his own admission, apparently he's rather a lazy chap.
Right.
When it comes to getting a project started, he's easily distracted with other projects, so he has been known to flit between projects, and I think, when was his last album? 10 years ago?
Well, he's got another one coming out.
So 10 years between albums would tell me he's doing other things, hopefully. I love the shower story from Genesis when recording the vocals in Trespass. To relax his throat, he would take a hot shower between the songs, on top of drinking copious amounts of tea. He must have been in the shower and toilet more than he was in the actual studio. But all in all, his work with Genesis was outstanding. The live theatrical performances were the pinnacle of old school progressive rock, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Peter Gabriel is definitely a prog rock legend, and well, I have no problem with that choice at all. So, on to my number 1 choice, and it is, of course, Peter Gabriel.
No wonder you had no problem.
Now, Gabriel was probably the first singer to use theatrical elements in live shows to enhance the imagery described in his powerful lyrics and storylines, to try and provide the listener with a more realistic experience. And he always sings with total conviction. His vocal delivery is typically English, and I like the sound of it. To me, it gives his vocals an added authenticity and personality. And, well, Gabriel delivers lyrics like he's lived them and truly believes in them. They are delivered with a truly theatrical flair and total conviction and commitment. And that's what really captures me about Gabriel as a vocalist. To me, he delivers on all levels and represents the perfect blend required for a progressive rock singer. His voice can be described as a little smoky, scratchy or raspy in sound, and he often sings with a combination of darkness and a unique inner soulful emotion.
I mean, we all know the past about the theatrical thing, but even just listening to the albums, he puts a character within the song, which you know, just even from listening, it's quite spectacular. But not my number 1.
Oh, okay.
My number 1 is probably controversial. He is the prog vocalist currently with the Scottish band Biffy Clyro, and it is Mr. Simon Neil. Wow. Now, he started Biffy when he was just 15, and now, at 43, his vocal style is stunningly beautiful and wildly dramatic. He moves effortlessly from a blood-curdling scream to a passionate, gentle melody, and evokes all sorts of moods, sometimes even within the one song. He is wildly passionate, and that's my number 1 favourite thing about any singer. When he sings, you can tell no one thing is getting in the way of that story. It's all or nothing. It is fully immersive, blood, sweat and tears to the max. His songs range from post-hardcore through to the progressive genres and are full of complex riffs and odd time signatures, and his vocal stands up and stands out through all of it. A true pioneer, he refuses to be pigeonholed, and that's what progressive's all about. He's completely unafraid to experiment with his voice, and he still holds that hints of a Scots accent in his singing, which of course for me is a nice touch.
Well, yes, please, we want that, of course.
So, yes, my number one is Biffy Clyro. Now, I will say this. If you're looking for a Rush type of feel, the last two Biffy Clyro albums definitely have that feel about it.
Okay. Well, Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro, well, look, he is simply a fantastic vocalist and a really good guitar player. He also has great tone, great vocal range, power, and also sings great harmonies. I really love his singing. The music is really good too. Now, do they have a keyboard player?
Well, Simon plays keyboards.
Well, and have they ever used the Mellotron? So look, here's the question.
I cannot believe you just said that.
Can you be a prog rock band without having a
I cannot believe you just said that.
dedicated keyboard player? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So that's it. These are our top 5 vocalists.
That is not correct.
Top 5 prog rock picks. How did we go? Did we miss your favourite prog rock vocalist? So does a prog rock band need a keyboard player? Let us know your thoughts. If you like the content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and ring the bell.
Rush!
So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Rush, I'm telling you.